we're going to move over to Dan Halyburton. He's with the Red Cross, and you're in Brevard County, right along the I-95 corridor. Dan, what's the situation like where you're at?
Well, some of the heaviest bands have just been coming through in the last half hour or so, and just really the same reports that you're hearing all over. Yeah. Amazingly, as so many people are reporting, the lights have stayed on, and that certainly makes things a lot easier for people who are dealing with the storm. And it's just about due east of us at my location right now.
Yeah, you got to count yourself among the lucky, because we're looking at some 300,000 people who have lost power, and they could be out of power for a while, maybe up to a week. Did people heed the warnings? You know, you're with the Red Cross. Did people do what authorities told them to do, which is either get out and once it was too late to get out, find a safe place to ride it out?
Well, I was at one of our shelters here in Brevard County throughout the afternoon yesterday. And people really did heed the word. People even were coming in to the shelter as late as sunset because they knew they just needed to leave the area. Most of the people in that area were coming from Cocoa Beach, one of the barrier islands, and people just said, listen, this one just sounded bad, and I'm going to follow the recommendations, and that's why I'm here in the shelter today. Of course, they remain optimistic about what will happen with their home, but they really won't know until later today.
Moving forward now, there's pretty much nothing to do now but wait for this storm to pass in your area. But afterwards, you know, authorities were talking about storm surge, wind damage, rain, flooding. What do you think the Red Cross's role will be after the storm passes?
Well, we're positioned to move into those areas just as soon as they're deemed safe and open to the Red Cross and to the public. And, you know, we want people to be very aware if they can, you know, have that opportunity to consider to move back into a neighborhood, that there are a lot of potential hazards and dangers in those neighborhoods, in high water, in debris. So we want people to really be safe as they decide to move back into those areas for cleanup. And, of course, Red Cross will be there with them throughout and along the way.
Yeah, is it true, Dan, that, you know, often when people are injured or hurt, it's not necessarily while the hurricane is pounding away, it's afterwards?
I see so many injuries after disasters. You know, fortunately not always dramatic ones, but you're right, there oftentimes is no medical care available, and people are not taking the right precautions to protect themselves against a lot of the hazards that are out there. So, you know, people prepared for the storm. Now they got to make preparations for cleanup and do it safely, and we'll be there to help.
So if people need to get in contact with the Red Cross, how can they go about doing that?
Call 1-800-RED-CROSS. We'll keep you up to date on any shelters and how those are either changing in the area. We can also let people know about volunteer opportunities that are going to start opening up. And then always we appreciate the financial support and donations to the Red Cross so that we can keep this effort going. We're operating shelters from Florida up through the Carolinas. We have over 80 shelters open, and a lot of work to be done in the days ahead. And
most likely some of these shelters will stay open even after the storm passes?
Absolutely. I think what you'll see is that right now we have a mix of shelters, including a lot of just what we call evacuation shelters. They're really meant for very short-term stays. As we understand the impact of the storm and where we're needed, we'll start to evaluate those shelters, and we'll provide the kind of support that people need.
All right, Dan, thank you so much for talking to us, and thank you for all the hard work that you're doing.